Welcome back. In today's episode, we speak with Tanner Gers. Imagine driving down the road, you're in a horrific accident, and that accident leaves you blind. What's next? Well, if you're Tanner, you go on to become a speaker, an author, and a U.S. Paralympian. He's going to share with you the gifts that he received from being blind. One of my favorite parts in the interview is when he talks about trying to figure out what sport he wanted to compete in. And he was trying all the different track and field events, and they let him throw a javelin. And he commented, and he said, wait a second, if they let blind people throw spears, what else can I do? What a great question to ask. There will be adult language used in this episode, so if there are kids nearby, please use caution.
Welcome to this edition of Peak Performers Podcast with your host, Thor Conklin. Thor will be sharing the necessary tools, strategies, and psychology you'll need to become a peak performer in any area of your life or business.
Thor Conklin here. We give you the tricks, the tips, the tools, the strategy, the technology, and the psychology peak performers use in order to get more done and execute at the highest level. If you know what to do but struggle with getting it all done, or simply want to raise your game to the next level, this podcast is for you. Sit back and enjoy. Well, we have an amazing guest for you today. Tanner Gers is here with us today. And normally this part of the interview, I would start and kind of give a bio of our guest, but I don't think I would do it justice. So I want Tanner to take that part, and he's going to tell you a little bit about his background and what he's doing.
Thor, thank you first off so much for having me on the show today. And this is quite interesting. You're switching it up on me because I've never actually introduced myself. But my
you're a peak
Tanner.
performer, so I knew you could just do it.
Oh, just I could pick up the ball and run with it. So, yeah, I'm Tanner Gers, and all-American kid growing up. I was in. Thor and I were talking about this a little bit ago. I was actually in my college dorm room during 9/11, got inspired to join the military and clean up my life a little bit. And in the enlistment process, I was in a really bad auto accident, and ultimately I lost my vision. I'm blind now, and got my life together, went back to school and graduated, started some businesses, started playing sports, became a U.S. Paralympian in 2012, first got online in 2013, and published a couple books, and been on this journey that we call life ever since, just loving the ride. So, of course, speaking. I love speaking from the stage, which is another reason why I started my podcast. Just enabled me to get behind the mic in a different area, and I'm just loving it. So that's kind of interesting, man. Just introducing myself. So thanks for giving me the opportunity.
Oh, no problem. And first of all, you got to check this guy out. He is an absolute badass, okay? I'm checking out his Facebook page, okay? And here he is. He's driving a truck, okay? He's in Montana driving a truck. I'm like, wait a second. I did my research. It says he's blind. He's driving. And then he's on a horse. I'm like, and this is what I love about you, okay? We all know people in our lives. I have clients like this that come up, well, I can't do it because I can't. I was like, just shut up, okay? I'm going to use you as a poster child. Really, I mean, congrats. I mean, hats off to you. As a matter of fact, when we started the interview, I thought you were blind in one eye.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yes, initially, until I did more of my research. But just looking at your post and following up when we initially set this interview. And, of course, the driving the car, continued to support that. But man, that is just awesome. Bring us
Thanks,
through, you went to this horrific accident, and you had a choice. You had a choice whether to go down, woe is me, or look out world, here I come. Why did you take the path that you did?
Well, I mean, that's a great question. We all have choices. And for me, I mean, at the time, after my accident, in the wake of that, one of the things that I was dealing with was the blindness. I also had some serious infections going on. One of the infections was in my sinus cavity and eating my eye. It ate my eye from the inside out. And so, I'll often wear an eye patch over that eye. And that's why it looks like I can see in the other eye, because that eye is fine. But there was another infection on my brain that was killing me. And so, here I am, I'm a bag of bones because I've been in the hospital for 6 weeks. I'm totally blind and dealing with that, and dealing with the depression and the anxiety. And then I've got doctors like the infectious disease doctor to go visit, and at-home IV medications to try to kill this infection that's killing me. And brain surgery after brain surgery, trying to stop the thing that I can't feel. And, it was one day my dad came around the corner, and I was drooped over. I'm so weak and frail. Right now I'm about 175, 176 pounds. And that's about what I was at the accident when I was 21. And at this time I'm under 130. So I'm just bones. And, he comes around the corner and he says, "Chin up." And so I hop up, for a second. And, or excuse me, I would normally hop up and bring my chin up, but this time I just stayed down. And he came and he sat down next to me and he said, "Tanner, what's wrong? What can I do to help?" He knew something was different this day because I would always pop up, and this time I didn't. And, I said, "Dad, I'm blind. There's nothing you can do. I'm blind. My life is over. My life is meaningless. And my life is worthless. I'm not going to make anything of myself." He said, "Tanner, I understand it is hard right now. But that is not the attitude that you need to have, because it's always going to be hard. And Tanner, you could be blind and you could be in a wheelchair. As a matter of fact, you should be. Tanner, you could be blind in a wheelchair, and mentally, you should be a vegetable. Tanner, you should be dead." And he let me think about that for a second. And that was already in my mind. It was shifting. The paradigm was shifting. I was changing. And he said, "Tanner, it's always going to be hard. But you've got to know and understand that it could always be worse." And so that was the catalyst behind, and my mom was hugely supportive. She was, that was the shift, and my mom was the rocket fuel. But, that was what started me going back to school, and that's what, helped me get going.
Everybody has core beliefs that drive them, support them. What are some of your core beliefs?
My core belief is that you have the power to change, and you have the power to change your life. I have core beliefs that our minds and our mouths have huge influences on our lives internally and externally. I have a core belief that the mind and the body are so intertwined and connected in ways that it's tough to fathom. And I believe that when you find what it is that moves you, when you find a purpose, a passion, that thing that will pull you to the end of the earth, when you find that for you, life becomes good. Life becomes meaningful, purpose-driven. Things just seem to fall in line after that.
Our limitations, everyone, prays for our limitations or our weaknesses to go away, but lots of times within these weaknesses and limitations, there's a gift. What gift did you receive?
I slowed down. Blindness is slowing. It's so intense to try to imagine how much slower my life has been because of the blindness. Mobilizing myself, writing papers, researching on the internet, reading.
Did you learn Braille?
I'm sorry?
Did you learn Braille?
I know Braille like elevator Braille. I know Braille like what room is this Braille. I cannot read a menu or a book or Braille fast enough. If I was giving a speech or when I'm giving a speech, I know my speech. It would be nice to know Braille well enough to just run my fingers really quick across a word as a reminder, but no, I don't know.
So when you say you're reading, you're hearing it?
Yeah, so thank God for an iPhone. My iPhone will read the Kindle, or I'll just listen to Audible.
Yeah, it was funny. I was joking with somebody the other day, and they said, "Did you read this book?" I'm like, "No, I don't read. I have somebody read for me." They're like, "You hire somebody to read for you?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's called Kindle." You know?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's funny. I've been loving my Audible app. I've been primarily on Kindle. Yeah. And then recently just started doing the Audible subscription, a couple months ago or whatever. And I'm just ripping through books. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got close to 700 in my library, and I've been doing it for years. It's awesome.
Yes. Yeah. So, and that's a core belief too. Lifelong learner, right? Always intend to be learning and growing my mind. I'm sure, Thor, you agree. The mind is like our bodies. If we don't use it, we will lose it. We need to stay strong. We need to stay persistent, both physically and mentally.
Yeah. It's funny, and this leads up to my next question, is so many people have trouble with thinking time because it's hard to turn off all the distractions. And that's the first thing. When I asked that question, I was kind of thinking, I was like, wow, just to be able to close my eyes and settle, just block the rest of the world out and just think.
Yes.
Where do you do your best thinking?
Well, it is one of the nice things about being visually impaired is that I can go into the depths of my mind almost anywhere that it's relatively quiet or peaceful. So, I love to do thinking in bed, just laying down. And this is why I'm excited about trying out a float tank. I think a float tank for me would just be amazing. But yeah, in bed and alone. I like to think by myself. I mean, if nature's around, that is totally fine and, helps me feel connected to it. But I like to be alone. As long as I'm alone and it's relatively peaceful, I'm fine thinking wherever.
Now, what part of the country are you from? Are you living?
I live in Phoenix, Arizona right now. I was born in Lafayette, Louisiana, and I've lived all over the South, up and down I-10 my entire life.
Gotcha. So are there think tanks or float tanks in Phoenix?
I believe there is float tanks in Phoenix. I think the nearest one, so I live, if anybody's familiar with Phoenix, I live around 36th Street in Camelback in Arcadia. And I think I'm like 15 minutes from a float tank.
Awesome. So you could actually, at the end of this interview, call them and schedule an appointment. I mean, if you were a peak performer and you follow through on stuff.
That's right. I am a peak performer. You are Thor accountability, brother. I'm doing this.
I just agitate people. That's what I do.
No. It's I don't think it's an agitation. It's
you'll find me doing that all the time. It's like, well, you're talking about doing it. Why don't we just get off the pot and just do it? So
yeah, I mean, executing is so crucial. I started on my podcast. I started doing these Monday motivation episodes.
Yes, I enjoy those. I like those a lot.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And one of the episodes was the theme or the message. Was information without execution is poverty, and that's actually a Tony Robbins quote, and it is. I mean, it doesn't matter how skillful you are, how much potential you are, how much talent you have, how much knowledge you have, if it's not applied. We have to execute, and thank you for being on top of me and improving or making me accountable for my execution.
All right. Send us some pictures on Facebook after you go.
Of the float tank, yes.
Yes.
It might be of the float tank wall, but
Okay.
and I don't even know if they
Or
let
from the outside, just
Oh,
you know.
in the egg.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's pitch black. Hey, here I am. I've had some friends do it, and they say it's absolutely spectacular.
Okay, so you haven't done it either.
I have not. No.
All right, well, you better get on it.
Oh, that was good, Tanner. That was good. All right, I'm telling you right now, I'm committing to getting it done in the next 2 weeks.
All right, I'm going to beat you.
So that leads me to my next question. Talking about competition, you're not laying around and just reading and doing a podcast. You are a professional athlete. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I kind of fell into it. On the news one day, I came home. I was at the time I was working full time. I was going to school full time, and I was under a lot of stress because my fiance and I split up, and we had purchased a home together. And so, and she left. She didn't, so I'm shouldering now a mortgage, working full time, school full time, and I just happen to be blind. And one of the things that I really enjoy doing right at the end of the day is I'd get home from work and I would watch The Tonight Show. And so I came home and I was a little bit early, so I knew it because it was a commercial on. And right after the news, right after the sports segment goes into Jay Leno, there's no commercial. So when the commercial was on, I knew that there was going to be some sports coming on. So I was excited about that. And all of a sudden, I hear this noise, beep, 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 beep. And I'm like, what the hell is that? And that was the first time I found out about beep baseball for the blind, and any blind sport. I've been blind. I'm blind now for 4 years, and never knew that such a thing existed. I started playing baseball, had a lot of success, just fell in love with that game, and that was gasoline on my pilot light to really take my physical body to the next level, and really also psychologically, mentally. So it kind of just for the first time in 4 years for me to step out in a way or in an avenue that everybody was on an even playing field. No one had the upper hand. And at work or at school, all my peers had the upper hand on me in terms of, not having the visual impairment. And so that was exciting for me. And I had a lot of success. And someone said, hey, have you ever thought about throwing the javelin? And I said, no, I don't want to kill anyone. I thought that might be dangerous for my neighbors if I was throwing a javelin. And, so I threw the javelin. It wasn't my thing. And then I was like, man, if they let blind people throw spears, what else can we do? And so that's when I was like, you know what, I'm going to be a Paralympian. I'm going to be a sprinter. And I started, that was in the late summer of 2010, and the season was already over. And so it was January or February next year, I started taking the bus. I would take the Greyhound bus from Tucson to Phoenix at 5 a.m. so I could be there for practice. And then I would take that bus back home. And May 4th, 2011 was my first track meet. September 4th, 2012, I was competing in the Paralympics.
That's amazing.
High level sport and pushing your body physically. Thor, as a triathlete, this. When we push ourselves beyond our previous threshold physically, there's this mental juice, this mental growth, this mental appreciation of capacity. It's quite interesting.
Yeah, it's funny because I see people all the time. They go to push up against that upper limit, and they push on it, and they push on it, and they push on it, and they don't break through, and they bring it back down. They push on it, they push on it, they bring it back down. If they simply, instead of sedating themselves or just letting off the gas, if they just push just an inch further, they'd break through, and that now it's a whole different realm. And I see people do it over and over again. Just when it gets tough, just put the gas pedal down. Go forward.
Right. It reminds me of two things. One that I'm reincorporating into my training now, but last year I started cycling as a cross-training methodology for my track and field sprinting, and my body just cannot take too many more than 2, sometimes 3 high-intensity training sessions in a week. I just start to break down. I'm applying so much force. So I started cycling, and someone said, have you ever thought about track cycling? And I was like, what is track cycling? They're like, well, it's cycling, but short distances. You just go in a circle. And I was like, oh. I was like, what's the shortest distance? They said a kilometer. I said, what does it take to go a kilometer? How, what are we talking about time? They're like, oh, just over a minute, about a minute. And I'm like, ugh, that is so far. So I started training track cycling, and you get to this moment, I'll never forget it, where your body just kind of separates from the mind, and where it's so tough to describe, but you just become this, like, I don't know, a little bit more connected to something bigger. And in terms of body weight exercise, I've been doing that too with a lot of isometrics, just holding that position for as long as humanly possible. And, that will get you to that brink pretty quickly too.
The event that I'm doing in November with Seal Fit, it starts off with a 45-minute plank.
Nice.
I'm up to like 3 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it'll be interesting views on Facebook. Here's Thor broken in 2.
You have more endurance capacities than I do. I signed up for this.
Oh, no, I signed up for it. We're not saying I have more endurance capacity. I'm a member. I paid my money. We'll see about the endurance.
Well, you're a triathlete.
Well, yes. Yeah. Now, I want to be clear. I'm not an Ironman. I participate in Olympic distance triathlons. So
that's the half tris, right? Or is that
no?
Try?
There's a half Ironman, there's a full Ironman, half Ironman, and then Olympic. So the Olympic is a mile swim, a 26-mile bike, and a 6-mile run.
Jeez,
so, yeah, still a lot, but yeah. And when I do triathlons, it's not a run. I'm participating in what I refer to as the walk division. It's so funny. I'll come. They're like, you can do it. You can do it. You can go fast. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm winning the walking division. And they're like, what's the walking division? I come up to the aid stations and I'm like, all right, let me take some of the pretzels. I'll take 2 salt pills. You got any whiskey? They're like, you're losing time. I'm like, man, I'm not losing any time. I'm just enjoying the stroll.
You guys got any dipping sauce for these pretzels?
Exactly. Are you truly living your potential? Are you getting the results that you need, want, and desire? There was a time in my life where I was not, and I needed answers. For the last 16 years, I've been obsessed with the question of why some people achieve massive results and others do not. And I found out that it comes down to one thing: execution, and the ability to take your ideas and plans and dreams and turn them into reality. That led me to the question, what are peak performers doing that others are not doing? How do they think? How do they act? What is behind the science of execution? I have now uncovered the secrets to the science of execution, and I want to share them with you. I have an intensive 3-day event called the Business Execution Summit. If you are truly committed to taking your game to the next level and mastering the science of execution, the most important skill that you will ever acquire, simply take your phone and text the word BE Summit, one word, to 41411, and I'll send you out some additional information on our upcoming event. That concludes part 1 of our interview with Tanner Gers. Please stay tuned later this week for part 2. Thank you so much for listening today. I really do appreciate your time, and I hope you found today's show valuable. If you would like to receive these shows automatically to your phone or to your computer, simply go to iTunes and subscribe. after listening to several of his shows. If you're so inclined, please leave us a 5-star rating, as this helps us reach additional people and spread the message. If you're truly committed to taking your life to the next level and doing whatever it takes to become a peak performer, but something's holding you back, something is blocking your way, and you just can't seem to figure out what it is, send me an email to info@thorconklin.com, and I'd be more than happy to get on the phone with you. We'll schedule a 15-minute discovery call. No obligation, no cost. I absolutely love to hear from the listeners, and if there's something I can do to help, I'd be more than happy to do that. Also, if you found something of great interest in today's show and you want to share that with your friends and family, simply go to my Facebook page, Thor Conklin, click on the episode, hit the share button, and share it on your page. You can follow me at Twitter at Thor Conklin. The website is thorconklin.com. We're constantly adding new free resources, discussing additional tricks, tips, tools, and strategies on how to be a peak performer. Remember, I try to keep these episodes short so you can listen to them during dot time, doing other things, commuting, driving, walking, working out. Decide to be a peak performer in all that you do. And until tomorrow, have an absolutely amazing day.